The Republicans have the Senate. The Republicans have the House. The Republicans have the White House. It's very unusual. Very unusual. But in order to achieve this bright and glowing future, the Senate must pass those tax cuts, bring Main Street roaring back, and that's what's going to happen. This is all done without the tax cuts. And I'm not sure that people even believe the tax cuts. I want to see what happens. And the big day will be either tomorrow or the next day. I would say do it now. We're ready.
Colin Wilhelm covers Congress for Politico Pro Financial Services. He joins me now from Washington. Welcome, Colin.
Thanks for having me.
So you heard the president say earlier that the, quote, big day will be either Thursday or Friday. What is the state of the GOP tax plan in the Senate right now?
So they cleared a major procedural hurdle today. They've voted to proceed with debate and consideration of the Senate tax reform plan. And basically that clears the way for holding this vote tomorrow, provided that they can iron out all the details and whip the votes that are needed to pass this along party lines. There's still a number of senators, or a handful of senators on the Republican side, who have expressed some concerns about this tax reform bill. And they want those concerns to be assuaged before they're willing to vote yes on this. Well,
it looks like Republican senators have made it past the precarious point where their health care bill failed. What hurdles are still left for this tax bill?
So a couple of senators have said that basically they have concerns over the potential debt impact that this would have. Right now, it's projected to add about $1.5 trillion to the debt over the next 10 years. And they also want some assurances that there could be some sort of trigger that would either raise taxes back from the cuts that this plan would put in place, or make spending cuts to government spending to try to close that deficit gap and make sure that debt doesn't increase too much. There are a handful of other basically parochial concerns as well. And we still don't know how the Arizona senators, Senator John McCain and Senator Jeff Flake, who has said that he's retiring, are going to vote on this.
There are some indications that some of these Republican holdouts are slowly perhaps moving closer to the party bill. But what is different this time around from, say, the health care vote?
Republicans are just more unified. They also know that they need a win. They need to show that they can govern. As the president said in the clip that you played earlier, they hold the Senate, the House, and the White House. This is a unified government that they have control of. But they haven't been able to pass any major legislation so far this Congress or this administration. And they need to show that they're able to do that heavy lifting of governing.
Well, before President Trump gave his speech in Missouri on Wednesday, he retweeted anti-Muslim videos and also about NBC's firing of Matt Lauer. Do tweets like that have an impact one way or the other on the GOP's legislative agenda? Because it used to be there was a time when a president would engage in very strict message discipline at a critical time in the legislative process to try to push a bill over the finish line.
At this point, I don't know how much of an impact it has other than on that messaging. This tax reform plan is basically at a wash in terms of popularity with everyday Americans in the polling that we've done on it so far. And it's possible that congressional Republicans, they certainly wish that he were more on message for this. But at this point, I think they've kind of waved off a lot of the extracurricular activities from the president when it comes to tax reform messaging. And they're just plowing ahead because there's so much political pressure and there's also momentum building to get this done.
So based on the timeline so far, do you think that we could see a final vote on this bill by the end of the week?
In the Senate, yes, that's certainly possible. And today's vote clears the path for that. What remains to be seen is what will happen if the Senate does pass their version of this tax overhaul. What remains to be seen is what will happen when they try to resolve the differences between their version and the House version, because there are a variety of differences, including the fact that the Senate individual tax cuts expire after 10 years, whereas the House ones are permanent, and a variety of other issues that could cause significant friction between the two chambers of Congress.
Yeah, a number of things yet to be ironed out. Colin Wilhelm, thank you so much, Colin. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
As we mentioned, President Trump retweeted a series of anti-Muslim videos on Wednesday posted by the leader of a far-right extremist party in Britain. Reactions are pouring in from people in the United States.